Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the most haunting and frankly fascinating scenarios imaginable. I want you to just clear your mind for a second. Picture the world around you right now, bathed in daylight, thriving, just bustling with energy. Okay, now strip away all that noise. Strip away the background hum of life until you're left with complete, absolute stillness. We're going to look at a singular, impossible event and trace its exact consequences through the lens of pure science. What would actually happen to our planet, to our solar system, and to us if the very center of our astronomical neighborhood simply ceased to be? Let's explore the science of a world without a sun. Here's our starting point, and it's a really powerful one to wrap your mind around. Just imagine waking up tomorrow morning, you're brewing your coffee, you step outside to feel the warmth on your face, and the sun is simply gone. Not hidden behind a cloud, not eclipsed by the moon, but entirely erased from existence. It is literally the ultimate cosmic disappearing act. And we need to be very specific about how this happens in our scenario. There's no massive supernova explosion that incinerates the inner planets. There's no slow fading away over billions of years, which, by the way, is what will actually happen in the distant future. There is absolutely zero warning. Just gone. The space where our star used to be is instantly replaced by the cold, empty vacuum of space. Just sit with the eerie silence of that idea for a second. It's a terrifying yet deeply intriguing premise. Now, before anyone starts panicking and building a bunker in their backyard, let me be absolutely clear about this. This is a scientific thought experiment. It is not a prediction of the future. The sudden vanishing of matter completely violates the fundamental laws of physics. Mass just cannot disappear. But, physicists actually love to use this exact impossible scenario as a tool. By imagining the sudden absence of the sun, we can perfectly illustrate the very real, very established laws of physics that govern light, gravity, and biology on Earth. So, we're essentially using an impossible event to explain the absolute truth of how our universe works. Okay, let's dive into this with part 1, the 8-minute illusion, the eerie calm before the dark. You might naturally assume that the moment the sun vanishes, the lights go out on Earth instantly. But the universe has a strict speed limit, and that dictates a very strange, kind of eerie delay, 8 minutes and 20 seconds. That is exactly how long it takes for a photon of light to travel the 93 million miles from the surface of the sun to the surface of the Earth. What this means is that if the sun vanished right this very second, we would actually continue to see it shining brightly in the sky for another 8 minutes and 20 seconds. People would be out walking their dogs, driving to work, looking up at a bright blue sky, completely unaware that they are literally looking at a ghost. They're being warmed by light emitted by a star that no longer exists. So the crucial point is how this applies to gravity. You might think, okay, the light is delayed, but surely Earth would instantly fly out of orbit the second the sun's mass disappears, right? Actually, no. Thanks to Albert Einstein's theory of general relativity, we know that gravity does not act instantly across the universe. The fabric of space-time ripples, and those gravitational waves travel at the exact same speed as light. Therefore, Earth would just continue orbiting a completely empty point in space for 8 minutes and 20 seconds, held on a gravitational tether that has already been cut at the source. Which brings us to part 2, when the lights go out, the sudden darkness and drifting. So, the clock is ticking, and those 8 minutes and 20 seconds of borrowed time inevitably run out. And when they do, the transition isn't some slow, peaceful twilight. It's an abrupt, absolute shift. The last photons hit our atmosphere, the gravitational waves pass us by, and the reality of our new situation arrives all at once. The curtain falls. In a fraction of a second, darkness suddenly covers the entire daytime side of Earth. The stars would instantly pop out against a pitch-black sky. And simultaneously, because that gravitational anchor is finally gone, Earth just leaves its circular orbit. Following Newton's first law of motion, our planet would instantly begin flying in a straight line through the cosmos, hurtling into the dark unknown at roughly 67,000 miles per hour. Just like that, we're no longer part of a solar system. We are a rogue planet. Moving on to part 3, the Great Global Freeze, the cascading collapse. Drifting through space in the dark is terrifying enough on its own, but the most immediate threat to life isn't actually the motion, it's the lack of heat. You see, the Earth is essentially a giant rock that's been constantly baked by the sun. Without that incoming radiation, the heat we do have begins immediately radiating away into the freezing vacuum of space. The temperature drop wouldn't be instantaneous, but it would be relentless and absolutely devastating. And this brilliantly illustrates the delicate house of cards that is our ecosystem. Here's how the biological collapse unfolds. Step 1. The the sunlight completely vanishes. Step 2. Within days, the entire foundation of the global food chain just halts. Without sunlight, photosynthesis stops immediately. Small plants die within weeks. Now, massive trees might survive for a few decades thanks to their slow metabolisms and stored sugar, but they aren't producing any new food or oxygen. Which leads to step 3. Herbivores have nothing to eat and die off, rapidly followed by the carnivores. Humans are suddenly stranded at the very top of a dead food web. Let's look at the actual timeline for this freeze. After just 1 week, the average global surface temperature drops below 0 degrees Fahrenheit, or about minus 18 degrees Celsius. The frost creeps in incredibly fast, and our bustling cities fall completely silent, beginning to be covered in a thick layer of ice. After 1 year, global temperatures plummet to minus 100 degrees Fahrenheit. These surfaces of all the oceans freeze over. Now, ironically, this top layer of ice would actually insulate the deep ocean, keeping the water below liquid for hundreds of thousands of years. But up on the surface, over many years, Earth enters a deep, permanent freeze, becoming nothing more than an icy, lifeless rock. This takes us to part 4, humanity's underground struggle, the desperate pivot. Faced with this complete cascading collapse on the surface, humanity would be forced into a desperate pivot. The surface of the Earth is no longer a habitat, it's a hostile, frozen vacuum. To survive, we'd have to look in the only direction left, down. The contrast here is incredibly stark. Above ground, our majestic surface cities, places like New York, Tokyo, London, are transformed into abandoned, dead monuments entombed in solid ice, shrouded in perpetual night. But below ground, we see our only hope, deep underground shelters. Down here, humanity would be completely disconnected from the natural world. Our survival would rely entirely on artificial environments, artificial light, and most importantly, artificial energy. Which really forces us to ask a critical question. Could we actually do it? Could underground shelters and nuclear energy actually keep pockets of humanity alive? Well, the science suggests that technically, yes, for a time anyway. We could potentially build habitats near geothermal vents at the bottom of the ocean, utilizing the Earth's internal heat. Or we could rely on nuclear reactors to provide the energy needed to generate heat, purify water, and grow food artificially. But it would be an incredibly fragile, claustrophobic existence for just a tiny fraction of the population, living in constant fear of a mechanical failure in the dark. Finally, part 5, a frozen, wandering Earth, adrift in the cosmos. So, what's the ultimate fate of our home? Let's fast forward through the ages, way beyond the desperate struggles of survival, to look at the big picture. Remember, we are still traveling at 67,000 miles per hour in a perfectly straight line. Over millions of years, this icy tomb would drift silently through the Milky Way, just another rogue planet passing through the immense, dark voids between the stars. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that going through this rigorous scientific thought experiment strips away all the complexity of our daily lives, and it reveals one single, absolute truth. The sun is the reason life exists on Earth. Every breath we take, every bite of food we eat, the liquid water we drink, and the very gravity that holds our world in a stable, temperate zone, it is all a direct gift from that unimaginably powerful nuclear furnace 93 million miles away. Which leaves us with this final thought. We spend our entire lives taking daylight completely for granted. But when you really understand the physics of what the alternative looks like, a dark, freezing rock hurtling blindly through the infinite void, it kind of changes your perspective, doesn't it? Knowing exactly how fragile our existence is in the dark of space, suspended purely by the warmth and pull of our star, will you ever look at a simple sunrise the same way again? Thank you so much for exploring this scenario with me. Keep wondering, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.